Alrighty everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are now going to go into the inibuilds A350 and I'm going to teach you to do a cold and dark start all the way up to your top of your SID, and we're going to go from QNH to standard. This is going to be a new start of the series where I'm going to start teaching you all of my favourite Airbus aircraft and all the information I've learned myself through my own studying, going through SOPs and anything I've learned in my years of flight sim. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you go and subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video in the series. And thank you very much everybody. Let's get going. Alrighty everybody, so we are in Dubai in the Singapore A350 900 variant in Dubai. We're going to go through the first of all. This is going to be the first episode of the series. It's going to be your cold and dark start. So we're going to take you through what I've learned and how I do my cold and dark starts from everything I've learned so far. So we're going to do this from a right seat today. First thing we're going to need to do is the batteries. So you have 4 batteries on the A350. First of all we have to check all the voltages on the batteries. That's batteries 1 and 2, 27.2 and 27.9. They will have to be above 27. You can see all of the batteries are at a good voltage, so we can get off that. Next thing, so we have the 4 batteries. We go battery 1 on, battery 2 on, 3 and 4. You see that'll start to illuminate most of the overhead panel. Let me just find the right prefix of the overhead panel, 1 minute. There you go. Hold on. There you go. So all 4 batteries are on. You'll see then now we still have quite a few things that are off. So because we don't have the APU on, or we do not have the external power. At the start of this video we're going to do this with the external power. So you're going to turn on external power 1 and 2. And everything will come to life. You'll hear all the clicking, the boom, that everything will come alive pretty much straight away. So everybody from here seems to do it differently. Every airline seems to do it differently. I'm going to go from where I do this and how I was taught. So I was always taught extinguish all white lights from bottom left to top right. So you go bottom left all the way up on the left side, middle all the way up, and bottom right all the way up. So first of all, cruise supply, white light means you turn it off. Going up, and while we're here we're going to turn on our ADIOUs and your IRSs so we can find them. So you go in this order: IR1 to now, IR2 to now, and IR3 to now. We then go from down here at the bottom, emergency lights to arm, and we turn the rest of them onto auto for now, because we don't have anything on that would cause an evacuation. But for me, I have no reason to have to keep the APU on, no engine start. So we're going to keep going up the panel. You see we have no white lights, a few orange lights, but that will go on. That will go off to start turning on the engines and all that. Next white lights are the fuel tanks, so we'll turn on the fuel tanks now. Those are extinguished. Go up, check, and nothing on the right hand side. So that's our overhead panel set for now. So I'll come back down here. Next thing, I'll go to a website called METAR Tab. Free website gives you METARs for any airport in the world, which is obviously quite useful if you're flying on BATSIM or just flying in general. You normally want your METAR. So I'll go on to METAR Tab and check the QNHs. So for example, right now for Dubai, the QNH is 9907 hectopascals. We'll put in 9907. And on the A350 it'll set on both sides to 997. Then we go down to our standby, and we once again set that to 9. Next thing after that, we can move down here to what you would call on any other aircraft an FMC. So if you're coming from an A320, obviously this is a very different system. A350 and A380 will share the same FMS. And it's just going through it and learning it yourself. It's very simple once you've learnt it. You don't really have to fiddle around with it too much. You don't have to worry about it being a hassle. It tends to be quite an easy system to work with. So we'll clear the info there so we don't have the error message. We'll go to init here, and we'll go to, let's say for here, we'll start on the init page. So, don't know why that came up. As we're doing this, going to create this in brief, but I'll talk you through everything that's different on this compared to what would be different on a A320. So the main difference is first of all how it looks. It is a glass screen instead of a actual different panel. So you don't have everything that your buttons on the side to press to control things. You have your cursor that in real life is here, so you move everything with your cursor. But on inibuilds A350 you use a mouse. You still have to type everything in on the keyboard. It's not like the A380 where you can use your own keyboard. It has to all be typed in. So, first thing you need to do is if you have Navigraph, make sure your Navigraph is submitted into your OIS. Your Navigraph will be in options, go to third party, and it will be in there. I'm not going to go in there because obviously I don't want to share my Navigraph information, but you go through there and you get all your Navigraph settings and it'll be in. So we're going to come back to our FMS, and for the sake of this we'll go company flight plan, so we can insert our Navigraph flight plan. And it's going to see that you've got a flight plan received. That means that the aircraft has picked up the company flight plan from our company and it's waiting for us to input it. So we're going to receive company flight plan and insert. And you'll see it'll fill everything. That means it's got everything from our flight plan. It'll have our cruising level, it'll have what the cruise temp is, what our cost index is going to be, everything's going to be as it should be. So, the only things that you still have to do on the flight plan page is you go to flight plan and you're going to have to enter your SID and your departure runway as well as your star and your arrival runway. That is because it doesn't import that off your Navigraph itself, and if you're flying VATSIM or something, that will tend to change once you get your clearance. So on our Navigraph, on a different screen, I can see I'm departing from runway 12 right to Dubai, to a runway and 12 right. We're taking the IVER 1 Golf, so I'll go to SID and I'll look for that, which is here. Click that, transition, go on none. I'm going to click temporary flight plan. That means if you're using plan mode or you're just trying to look at things ahead, which I can show you in a bit on here, but IR is aligning in 2 minutes, so it's not there yet. You use plan mode and you can look ahead if you star or anything else to see what you're putting in. That is when you use your temporary flight plan. So it's not actually in the flight plan yet. You can undo it if you don't want to use it, or for the sake of this, as we're doing it, we're going to click insert. That means now the aircraft is taking that as our SID and departure runway, so everything will work off those two. Then you still have to use star and your arrival runway. So then instead of scrolling all the way down, you just go here to Singapore, and I can see I'm using 20 right and Hebu 1 Bravo. So 20 right, approach, ILS, scroll down, scrolling, what that means, that's Hebu 1 Bravo. Temporary flight plan, and once again insert. There we go. So that's the flight plan page done. Unless you want to go into a secondary flight plan, which we'll learn later on. I might do a second episode on the more advanced systems, but for now this episode will more just be getting you to grips with the aircraft, so we're going to be learning the basics. So, inserted the flight plan, and that's done now. Next thing we're going to do, because this is the inibuilds A350, what we'll go and do here is we'll go to load sheet, and we'll click SimBrief import. And you'll see all the data down here will go exactly as it should be. So you go set 0 for your weight, that'll set your passengers, your cargo, your everything. And you can see we have a pretty much full house here today. And then we'll go set fuel. I'm going to go set instant just for the sake of it so we can learn here quickly. Alright, so that's done. That means we've got all of our load sheet and everything done. Next thing is you can see our INS is aligned. Everything is like should be down here. Alright, so we're going to come back to our FMS. We're then going to go here where it says active at the top, and you're going to fuel and load. Normally you'd have that here on an A320 or an A330 or most of the Airbus aircraft. A380 and A350 fuel and load is here. You're going to go to fuel and load. What you can do is, instead of doing it manually, you see the enter button. You're going to hover your mouse or your cursor over that and click enter, enter, and enter. Meaning it'll give you everything you need in one place. Only thing it doesn't do for you is your passenger number. So to get that, we're going to go here, back to the load sheet, and you'll see our total packs on board, or passengers, is 302. We take that number, you're going to come back down here, the passengers, and put in 302, and click enter. There you go. Passengers in. That's your fuel and load page completed. Don't have to worry about it again now. Then I'll go up to FMS2. So not the same place that we clicked last time for active. You go to FMS2 and serve. This is your transponder data. So this is where you turn on your transponder, your weather, everything. You go to XPDR and you go from standby to auto. Put it on the ground. We're going to keep it on standby for now. We'll go to TARA later. This is also, if you're on BATSIM, where you can set your squawk. I believe you can also set your squawk down here. Go to squawk, and you can set your squawk there as well. You can. So you have two different ways of doing everything. Sometimes you do this here, sometimes you do it there. Your VHF as well, your communication frequencies, you all handle here. Everything. So, I'm going to go back down here. Once you've done that, we go there, predicted wind shear on. You're going to normally want to do that. You're going to go to FMS2, and now you're back on the page you started on. Next thing we have to do is performance. So, inibuilds A350, great aircraft. You can simply just come to takeoff performance here, and you can either sync your FMS or sync your synchros. We're going to sync your FMS, and then you sync here. So that's going to give you all your METAR, so your QNH, your outside air temperature, your winds, and that's going to do all of your performance calculations for you. You can change your options here, so your takeoff weight is in tons, so this is how I prefer my weights and everything like that. So your distances in meters, hectopascals, and tons. The only time I change that is when I'm flying in the US, when that needs to go to the other setting, which would look like that. So, I'm going to click compute. That will spit out in your results page here. Will give you everything you need. Your V1, which is your rejected takeoff speed. So anything after V1, you're going. If you have an engine failure or anything after V1, you still put the aircraft in the air. VR, your rotation speed, so when you're going to start to rotate. V2 is your speed where you can sustain flight. So, you also see your flaps config here, and your flex. Flex, to explain it basically, is basically your aircraft lying to the engines, telling your aircraft that it is hotter than it actually is, so the engines put out less power, because from maintenance's point of view, you don't want to be using a TOGA or max power takeoff every single time and put a lot of stress on the engines, because it doesn't help anyone in the long run. So, that's all of your takeoff data and all your performance data. You're then going to go to the center FMS button, click that. We can then come back down to the FMS, go to performance, and everything will be in here already. Only thing we have to do is click confirm takeoff speeds. We're going to cross check for all of the V1, VR, and V2 are the same, so 145, 152, 156, 145, 152, 156. I'm going to go here and we're going to click confirm speeds. Now our performance is in there exactly as it should be. We don't have to worry about that anymore. That is perfectly fine now, and we can leave that. Also good to see your optimum flight level and your cruise. So your cruise is where we're going to cruise when we're highest today. That's our highest cruise level for now. However, I might need to change that because on my sim brief, my highest cruise we do a step climb to 410. So in it, and you can see that we're going to have to change here. So we're going to go here, 410, enter. There. So here's what we're going to do. If you have a step climb on board the A350, just a little bit more advanced. Obviously, you don't always have to use this, but I do, because when I'm doing a long haul flight, sometimes I won't do it manually or I forget. So I'll come here, and you're going to want to look which waypoint your step climb's at. I can see my waypoint is at Beacon, so we're going to scroll down. We get to Beacon. Go to Beacon. So actually it's not letting me click on. There we go. Go to Beacon. And you'll see step alts. You're going to click on step alts, Beacon, and I can put in here, flight level 410, and enter. Again, temporary flight plan. Same as with your flight plan, you're setting your stars and insert it. So now the aircraft knows that at Beacon it needs to do a step climb to 410, and it will see everything that was now set at 410, so your top of descent will calculate it. There. So, perfect. I'm going to clear all the info here, and then I prefer for takeoff to have it like this. Performance on this page, flight plan on this page. So, I'm going to come back to our seats. This is where I've done most of the preliminary startup, and we can start talking more technical things. So, first of all, when it comes to these navigation displays, everyone's got it different. Some prefer the nav or arc. For me personally, I prefer the arc view unless I'm flying an approach, where sometimes I'll change it to nav, so I can get a 360-degree view of the waypoints and everything of the aircraft. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open my navigraph, and we're going to pull up a Dubai departure SID. So, pulling up our SID. If you don't have navigraph, you can use Foxchart, which is generally a very good free one. If you've already got, which is a very good free Fox company, chart company, if you've already got that sim and you've got an account. So, our initial climb altitude is going to be 5,000 feet. ATC will normally give this to you, however for me they won't, because I'm flying on ATC, so I get it off the charts. Then I'll check if I have a normal speed, which I don't, so that's fine, we can leave that, and we don't have to worry about it. So, we then set our autopilot panel. I'll then turn on constraints on both sides, meaning that here we can see all the constraints. This is where I can adjust and plan everything my flight plan. So you got a plan here, and you can just cycle through your flight plan and all your different plans. If you're going to do that, you're generally going to increase your range a little bit so you can see more. However, I already know everything's as it should be, and I can now see my constraints. So here is where I go to nav, and I can see my constraints that have to be under 5,000 there, which is hence why we've gone to 5,000 here, but we know we don't go over 5,000. So I'm going to go back to art, as I prefer, keep it there. Next thing we're going to do is now we're going to turn to start our APU. So we're going to start the APU, seatbelt signs on is what I do now. We first going to do the APU fire test. So we hold the APU fire test button, and we're going to look for 5 things. Illumination of at light. You're going to then look for your master warning and master caution. That's 3 and 4. No, 1, 2, 3. You're going to look for an error message here 4, and then your 5th is your sound. So you hear the sound of the alarm. So we're going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4 is your sound, and then 5 was this here. You've got all your 5 items you need. That's what you do for your APU fire test. While we're here, we'll do it for the engines as well. Engines, you look for 6. you look for fire here as well. So engines 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 on the sound. So that means that APU at engine fire test is complete, meaning we can start both. We're not going to start the engines because we're still at the gate. So start the APU, master switch on, which will open this display here. You normally wait a little bit before you actually click start, wait for the APU to warm up and for it to power on properly. However, in the sim, we can do it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and you're going to click the start button and this on button will illuminate. That means that it's starting up the APU and you can just leave it. So we're going to come back here and we're going to monitor here while we watch the APU start. Either N anything is how quick something's spinning. That's your N1, your N2, everything on your engines, for example, is how quick the blades are spinning. Same concept on the APU. So you're going to wait for your APU to spool up. Now this is just a waiting game. And now you see the APU is where it needs to be, and you get the avail message here. But then you'll still see our bleed is at 0 psi. So what we're going to do is going to come up here, you're going to get avail there as well, available, and you turn on your APU bleed. So you'll see that will now go away, and you'll hear the APU in the aircraft. That means you started your APU, everything's Gucci. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to turn on our beacon lights. Beacon lights will signal all ground crew to stay away from the aircraft. We now want to push and start and get going. The next thing I'll do is I'll come here to my pushback. Everyone's different on this. Everyone will have a different add-on, or if you just use the basic Microsoft version of it, everyone's different. I'll come here and I'll plan my pushback. I know I want to be straight here. Then I'll let it turn us to here. There we go. So I'll then request pushback. As I'm going to do that, on the inibuilds A350, I'll come to ground and I'll go up here, disconnect both external powers. I'm then asked GPU to disconnect. That means we no longer have a GPU connected, meaning we're now slowly running off of the APU. I'll also ask for shocks to be removed as we're trying to push back. So I'll then do, remember sim, an external check. You can see everything is clear and our tug's on its way. Right, perfect. Then I'll click toggle slide arming so you can see all doors are closed, as you can see here as well. You cross check both. I can then click toggle slide arming, done. I'm now being told by my pushback thing to release my parking brake. So we're going to release the parking brake down here, which you click by just clicking it, release the parking brake. And you're going to wait and you're going to see, there we go. So now we're going to get pushed back and we're going to start our engine start procedure. So engine start procedure, all fuel pumps are on, ground crew have given us permission to start the engines, beacon lights are on, taxi lights are off, APU is on, and we got the bleed going. So we're good to start. We can come down here, make sure your thrust levers are at idle. That's your most important step, so make sure thrust levers are still at idle. You're then going to take your engine mode start, and switch it to ignition start. That will change this screen here to show you everything you need to know on your engines as they start to come alive. The oil quantity and everything can start increasing. It's also going to start increasing and you think it needs to start the engine. You can see your bleed air is where it needs to be. So I know I'm good to start engine 2. You always start engine 2. Don't know why, I believe it's for your systems, and engine 2 powers more when it comes to hydraulics, I'm not too sure. So you start engine 2 first. Engine 2 master lever is going to come on. It actually depends on the airline. Some airlines will say engine 1, some airlines will say engine 2. It depends on who you fly for. So you'll then monitor your engine display here. Your N3 and N2 are going to start to rise. And all of your information is going to start to come up. Your N1 as well is going to start rising. Just like in an airbus, you're going to want it to get to about 18, 19, 20 on that N1. And that's when you're going to be able to go. So we're going to wait for that to spool up enough. Still being pushed back. Obviously going on. And then you'll get the A-Veil on engine 2. Then we're going to complete the exact same process for engine 1. So make sure your engine 1 idle, engine 1 first lever is idle. Still ignition starts, engine 1 master lever is going to be on. We're going to monitor everything come up as well. N3 is spooling up well, so then 2. When your N1 is going to start coming up any second now. There you go. Your PSI is also increasing. And you can see this symbol here means that your bleed air is open to the engine. If it's crossed like that, it's not going in. Your APU bleed air is now going into the engine. And you'll see everything's going to start coming up because of it. Alright, so engine 1 A-Veil, you can see everything stabilizing as well. That's going to come down a little bit to 480, and everything stabilizing. So, engine 1's got a good start as well. So I'm going to do the ignition start and normal. At this point, my pushback is finished, and I'm being asked to engage my parking brake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, turn on the parking brake. I'm going to wait for the pushback to disconnect. Bit of a wonky push, but that's probably my fault. So now we can come up here and we're going to turn off our APU. So master switch come off. And the APU bleed switch off as well. It's going to take a few seconds for it to spool down, so you're still going to have the A-Veil light, and then it's going to spool off. Then you're going to see your pushback tug is then going to be off to the side, which means you're now clear in front of you. Now you can start doing things that we should do. So, if you give me a second, you need to disconnect something. I'm not too sure why that's gone to reverse. Right, so a few things we're going to do. This is our before taxi now. Just going to wait for this to do its thing. So, before taxi checklist. What we're going to do is we'll have all of our ECAM. This is your ECAM display. Anything here that's blue needs to be fixed. Anything that's green is fine. So you can see our signs are all good. Everything's all good in that regard. However, we've got a few blue checklists, things we need to address before we start flying. So, if you give me 1 second, we'll also connect my throttles so we can go through efficiently. Alright, so still, engines are idle, everything's how it should be. What we're going to do is, first thing, we're going to set our flaps. So we're going to go flaps for takeoff 1, and our flaps will start extending. And we're going to arm our speed brake, our spoilers, and our auto brake. On the A350 you don't have a certain button you need to click, it's just going to automatically put you on RTO. You can see your flaps are here at 1 plus F, and your parking brake set. TCAS is still standby, so here I'm going to go to serve. I'm going to go TAR. There, TCAS is now set. So, aircraft's still going to keep on standby until we get closer to the runway. That's fine, we don't really care about that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our flight controls check. So you're going to take your joystick, you're going to go full backwards on the stick. On your PFD you're going to see this little square. You're then also going to check under your engines next to ECAM. You're going to see that your elevators are exactly where they need to be and they're fully up position. That's perfect. I'm going to go full down. Then check it same on the PFD. Elevators fully down exactly as you want it. Then I'm going to go full to the right. You can see your spoilers are extending and your ailerons are extending exactly how they should. Full to the left. There you go. Flight controls are checked exactly how we need them to be. Next thing we're going to do, cabin's not ready, so we can't do a takeoff config test. Because if you try and do all the cabin's not ready, even if you hold it, not going to do anything. You have to wait till the cabin's ready. I would then turn this onto either weather or terrain, depending on where you're departing from. Dubai, I'll keep it on weather. Don't need to worry about terrain in Dubai, not necessarily an issue. So, engines are checked, flaps and spoilers exactly how we should be. Next thing you want to do is you want a taxi, so I turn on my program window heat, then your nose and taxi lights will come on. Landing lights will stay off, strobe lights will stay on auto, wing lights you stay off unless you're de-icing. Wind lights, it's actually something I learned from people I work with like Jason and Waypoints Aviation. Incredible, I'm going to put that link in the description. A lot of my knowledge from the Airbus have come from Waypoints Aviation, so please do check them out. Next thing, so you can see your wing lights stay off. Those you actually only use for de-icing. You don't use your wing lights in normal operations, which is actually a very big misconception. You don't use your wing lights. Next thing. So taxi lights on, wing lights off, landing lights off, strobe lights auto, and all of these are on. Logo lights will normally stay on auto because you don't normally need. So, cabin's still not ready. What you can do is that's exactly how it should be. We can begin taxiing to runways. So, we're going to go zoom. If you're using Navigraph, you'll be able to do this from 2020. You give it a second to load, and cabin's ready. We're going to go takeoff config, hold it. You can now see our ECAM is all green, no blue. Exactly what you want it to be. You always want an ECAM, all green, no blue. If it's like that, you've done your job right, you know you've done it well. So, we can see we're trying to go to 1-2 right, which is here. We are here, we're going to follow Zulu, cross the Yankee, onto Kilo, and to Kilo 1. So, we know our taxi route, we can zoom this in and we can use this as our charts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look ahead, make sure we're clear. This is where you'd ask for taxi clearance for that sim. As I said, not on that sim, don't need to do that. Disengage your parking brake, which I can do on my throttles, but you might have to do there. Disengage your parking brake. Slowly bring up your throttle to a very small amount. And use your tiller. I'm going to start taxiing. So, if you're in the right seat, to keep my nose on center line, I know my center line needs to be a little bit between the HUD switch and this switch here. So I'm going to try and aim for that, to try and keep my nose on center line. There's where I want to be. So, I know my nose is on center line, everything is as it should be so far, aircraft's working perfectly fine, we're just going to taxi ourselves to the runway as per normal. You can see your ground speed here, so your taxi speed, is 10 knots, is what my ground speed is. You want to keep that normally under 20 knots. I'm taking it a little bit slower today so we can talk through anything we can talk through. So your ground speed's at 10 knots, and then you can normally taxi at about idle thrust unless you want to increase the thrust while you're taxiing because you have a heavy aircraft. Your idle thrust tends to get the job done. So you can see we have 3 ways of crossing here. We said we were going to cross at Yankee, so the second one. And this one isn't Yankee. You can also see Yankee here on the signage on the far right. And it'll show you here's Yankees. So yeah, it looks a little fast. We're going to tap the brakes. Well, we're going to change right here. We're not going to cross at Yankee. So because we can't cross at Yankee, we're going to cross here at Lima 4. We're going to slow down a little bit to a little under 10 knots or just around 10 knots. We're going to use our tiller to slowly get us around the corner. You've got to remember that A350 is a very long aircraft, so you have to give yourself a little bit of lead to make sure you get your nose there, or else you're just going to completely cut it short. Same thing here, going to give yourself a little bit of lead, and now turn to the right here onto Kilo. There we go. So, perfectly timed. We're now going on to Kilo. We're going to keep taxiing here until Kilo 1. You can see it's quite a hazy day here in Dubai. This is where we can discuss the heads-up display. Everyone's got different opinions on it. Personally, I don't tend to use it. Most airlines don't have the heads-up display, so I don't see a point in using it because it doesn't help me, because I'm trying to train be as realistic as possible to try and fly in the future in real life on Airbus aircraft. So to me, it's not used, so I'm not going to go over it here. I'm not going to use it for takeoff either. However, I will teach you how it works. It is basically the exact same as your PFD here. So your indicated airspeed on your left, altitude on your right. This bird here is the same if we were to go here and engage that, which would give us the birdie here instead of the flight directors, which we will discuss later at a later stage. So that's your flight path vector, so it'll show you where the aircraft is going to end up if you keep going the way you're going. Ground speed, and then at the top, which you can't see because it's quite a hazy day, it's the same stuff you have on your FMA here. So we're going to stow that, and we're going to just take off as normal without it. So once again, we're going to slow down a little bit for the turn. Our turn now. Give us a little bit of throttle to try and get us going forward a little bit. This is where as well you've got to know that the cockpit is quite far ahead of the nose wheel on the A350. So you can go a little bit closer to the line than you think you can. So we're going to stop a little, what looks to be past it. However, if you go outside, 1 minute, you'll see we're still quite far away from the whole short line. So, right before takeoff, when you go throughout your pre-takeoff checklist, I'm not going to go into that here because I don't have a copy of it to show you on screen. So it's not fair. I'll follow your checklist and not be able to show you what I'm doing. So I will show you what I would normally do flows-wise. So this is where I'd do a takeoff briefing. So takeoff briefing would be initial climb altitude to 5,000 feet. Any master cautions or warnings before V1 will reject the takeoff. Anything after, keep flying or put that once we get in the air. Initial climb altitude again 5,000, keep it in managed speed, and we're going to go to around initial speed of about 170, 180. Keep it there for a while before we start increasing the speed as we go higher and higher. Nothing more to brief. We have no more special conditions on departure. So this is where I change this to here, and I change the zoom on my captain side. Because I'm alone in the aircraft, I can fiddle with that side so I can get things exactly how I want to see it. Alright, so your takeoff config check's already done. Takeoff config is normal, everything's as it should be. The only thing you need to do is lights. So let's say we've just got takeoff clearance, we're going to release the parking brake, slowly bring up the throttle. As we do that, we can now turn our taxi lights to takeoff, landing lights on, and strobes to on. So exactly how everything should be. We're now going to start getting onto the runway. We're going to slowly increase the thrust. We're going to taxi onto the runway, exactly as I said before. Give yourself a little bit of lead on the line so that you can actually get around it, because A350, very long aircraft, and remember, nose wheels behind you. So, because we've got everything as we should have it for takeoff, and let's say we've been asked to do an immediate takeoff, we're going to line ourselves up. We're then going to bring our engines up here to the 50% mark. You can see there's 50% on your engine display. And wait for your engine to roll up. Going to make sure they roll up equally, there's good spool up and everything. You're then going to move your engines to flex mode. You then read your FMA, which is down here. So man flex 62 SRS auto thrust blue. Now you're good to go. Going to move down the runway, so make sure you use your rudder pedals and keep yourself on center line. And because I'm the first officer, my hands are off the throttles, 100 knots. Hands are off the throttles because I can't reject the takeoff. That's only the captain's job, not something I can do. So we're going to keep going down the runway, continuing to take off. V1, rotate. And bring the nose up to a solid 15-ish degrees is what you want to make it do. Positive rate of climb, we're going to call for gear up. Bring up the gear, and we're going to follow the flight directives here. We're going to want to keep our black square inside the green cross. You can see it wants us to pitch down a little bit, we're still going to follow that. We're going to keep our thrust in flex until our aircraft wants us to change that configuration. We're just going to keep hand flying the aircraft, focusing, watching outside, and then also making sure we're staying between the flight directors. We're then going to see our aircraft is calling for lever climb on the FMA. We're going to move our thrust back to climb config, which means now the auto thrust is going to engage. This is where I'm going to take manage control of the speed. I'm going to clear that mask warning for now. I'm going to manage the speed, and it's going to go to what it thinks it should be. We're going to engage the autopilot for now, so we can discuss things through. You'll see a green S here. When we cross that green S, we're going to remove the flaps to nothing. We're going to cross the green S, the flaps are going to come up to 0. If you're on flaps 2 when you cross the green S, you move it to flaps 1. If you're on flaps 3, you see the green S, you go to flaps 2. You just remove one set of flaps. So, I'm just going to clear out master portion here. There you go. So, we're now climbing. You can see the aircraft is following its flight path directives. Climbing at a good rate, still in climb mode, and it's going to do exactly as it should by constraint. So we have to be under 5,000, no longer an issue. We're going to increase the range on that ND, so we can see the rest. There's no more restrictions when it comes to being under any altitudes. So we can then go to what is our initial cruising altitude, which on this aircraft is going to be 390. We're going to increase this to 390. We're going to push it in, which is going to set to manage altitude, which means that'll follow constraints. Once you've done that, you're good to go, and your aircraft's going to fly itself. You've still got the speed and manage speed, which means you're not missing any numbers here. Only reason for that is that now follows the speed constraints of your SID. As you'll see here, have to be at 220 knots or under. That'll keep us at 220 knots until we've gone after that point in our standard instrument departure, and you don't have to worry about anything like that. So at this point, you can really just sit back and watch. When we're going to go up here, taxi lights are off, and everything else stays exactly as it is for now. There's not more to do now than just watch the aircraft climb itself, unless you're manually flying it. And we're going to wait till we know our transition altitude of Dubai here is, I believe, 12,000. Let me cross check that. It might be 15. It's 13,000 feet. So we don't have to change QNH or anything like that to standard. Nothing has to get changed on the aircraft until we get to 10,000 feet. As I said, we're on managed speed, so it's going to manage our speed as we go. We don't need to touch that. Only other thing we need to possibly do is change our speed brakes from armed to unarmed. Apart from that, we're going to keep going. We have a lovely Dubai sand. All of this sand is so lovely to look at. You've got the highways and some of the communities in the back. That is Sharjah Airport there. That is why you have to follow your restraints, especially at Dubai, if you're above certain altitudes, because otherwise you're going to either cross into Sharjah traffic, Abu Dhabi traffic, or worst comes to worst, you're going to cross into Maktoum traffic. Alright, so as a pilot I can see we've got mountains ahead. I will personally switch this here from terrain mode, so I can look where the mountains are. As it doesn't pop anything up on the terrain radar, which is not right there. You can see anything blue is your water, so that shows you've got sea on either side. I'd say that's pretty accurate. This way you can just sit back and watch the lovely views of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Trying to fix an issue that I don't know why it exists, because we did change that to TARA. I am highly confused why TCAS on standby. There we go. That was just an error on the aircraft where I just had to turn our transponder on and off again. So, I'll change that back to flight plan. This is actually saying that I will show, might happen, might not on Dubai, especially flying in the Middle East. You might go for GPS jamming. That is probably one of the biggest things that's incredible on the A350 to me. It's an insane amount of realism. You really cannot knock the aircraft. It's got so many features that you really don't have on another aircraft, which, for me, GPS jamming to have in flight sim, and it bases it off where you are, that's incredible. That's incredible. So, we passed 10,000 feet because I was talking too much. Landing light's going to come off. You see our speed now is going to start increasing because we're past 10,000 feet. Our speed can go as high as it wants to go. This is where, again, I'll change my ND ranges so I can start seeing further ahead. And we're going to turn off our seatbelt signs. Wait until we get to 13,000 feet. We can get a standby. Not standby, standard. You'll see down here where we have all of our different displays. This is our cabin pressurization and climate environment. You'll see it is slowly moving the cabin up to what it's going to be. This is saying you don't really have to touch as a pilot unless something goes really wrong. You don't normally control your environment. You can see you've got multiple different sections. Your cockpit is at a very different temperature to your cabin is. It's 2021, cockpit's 19. That's saying I can change up here if I really wanted to, if it's a little bit too cold. Let's say we want it to go a little bit hotter. There you go. Cockpit's going to increase in temperature just a smidge. So, 13,000 feet. Pull that to standard or push it to standard. Back, push it to standard. There you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your departure on the A350-900 by inibuilds. Any questions you have, or anything you think I've done wrong and I should fix, put it in the comment section. Let me hear it. If you have any requests for anything specific you want me to go through, RMP approaches, anything like that, let me know. I'm planning to make a top to bottom descent video, so going from top of descent all the way down to parking to show you exactly how I do all of that. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about or go through, let me know. I'm also planning to do another version of this on the A320, A321neo, and the A380, so I can get all the big aircraft for Airbus done. Considering maybe looking at the 777 or 737 in the future, but it'll be a while away because I'm still learning Boeings. Thank you very much everybody for watching, and I hope all of you have a great day, and thank you for tuning in and supporting the channel. Take care everybody, bye bye.